Welcome to this virtual get-together brought to you by getAbstract. I'm Kirsten Müller-Daubermann, and I'm your host for today's show. If you've been tuning in with us this week, you know what these get-togethers are all about. We launched them as kind of a live reading club because we know that the outbreak of the coronavirus has radically changed people's lives and their work situation all over the globe. And we have this amazing content library of 22,000 books, and we thought we want to share these resources with everyone, and we want to be able to provide them knowledge, but also in context, because we're all seeking out information and resources right now, and we have those available, and we want to share them with you. So we organize these get-togethers where we pick an abstract that we talk about every single day with an author, an expert, one of our writers or editors at the team here at getAbstract, and we bring you the latest topics, the topics of the hour, the issues that are trending, so we can chat about them. So today we're going to be diving into what working remotely looks like now in our current context, and what are some best practices. Obviously, something we're all dealing with. And we've got a great guest. She's a staff writer and editor at getAbstract, Sara Kuepfer, here to join us. So Sara, welcome to the show.
Hi, Kirsten. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage our audience, for those of you that are watching, anytime if you want to ask a question or you have a comment, or if you just want to say hi and let us know where you're signing in from, please do that. This conversation is designed to be, we want you to be a part of it. So please do chime in at any time and ask Sara a question or share your own working from home experience with all of us. So Sara, as I mentioned, she's a staff writer and an editor at getAbstract. She's based just outside Lucerne, and she has been working from home or working remotely for the last 10 years. So she was doing this before this was cool, everyone. And she has written many articles on this topic that have been picked up by various news outlets throughout the United States, and is currently working on a white paper that will be published by getAbstract in the coming weeks. So she's also a self-professed introvert, which I think is really interesting because I find Sara to be very engaging and lovely, but she says she's an introvert and someone who thrives in this work from home arena. So Sara, so cool that you're joining us. First of all, what has it been like for you working remotely for these last 10 years? You say you've loved it.
Yeah, I love it. I think I'm just much more productive when I don't have constant office interruptions. Although I have to say, except for the time when I worked as a freelancer for a couple of years, I've always been a hybrid. I've always been able to go to the office once a week. And actually, interestingly enough, I found Gallup actually found that there is a sweet spot. If there is an ideal situation, it's when employees can be in the office maybe for 20-30% a week. That's kind of the sweet spot that keeps employees the most engaged. And I love that back and forth. It's nice to be able to at least once a week to see people face to face and just be in the office and catch up on everything.
Yeah, of course, many of us don't have that luxury at the time being, because so many of us are locking down, self-isolating, social distancing, practicing healthy social distancing. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits, but that Gallup poll you mentioned is really interesting. It says that, remote work is on the rise and employees are increasingly demanding it. We know that remote working boosts productivity, and offering remote work options helps a company improve their carbon footprint. And it also boosts a company's image, especially among younger generations who increasingly want to work from home. So we know that this is a good thing. What are some other benefits specifically for companies?
Yeah, I think because it's so popular among employees, companies will inevitably benefit from that. If you have employees that are happier and they also report being less stressed, that can boost productivity for companies, can boost performance, can also cut down on turnover. So that's also a big saving for companies. Don't always have to go out and look for new people. In a nutshell, it's really a perk that companies can offer that costs them nothing. And in addition, it actually saves them a lot of money, right? It saves them money, because productivity is higher, but also saves them money on office space. which can be a big thing, especially if you rent real estate in a downtown area of a major city. And the other actually really interesting aspect I found is that it's a way for companies to increase workforce diversity. Diversity has been a big thing for companies in the last couple of years. The realization that diverse and inclusive companies are consistently more creative, more productive, and if your company is geographically located in an ethnically homogeneous area, it's a way to branch out and to attract workers from different backgrounds and different ethnicities. Even workers with disabilities, that's actually really important. People with disabilities who may have a problem getting into work, they have a good option by working remotely.
Yeah, that's a really, really great point. So we know some of the benefits for not only individuals, but also companies. What are some of the challenges? I'm sure many of you out there are facing a lot of those challenges right now if you're someone who's not used to working remotely and this is a new situation for you. And so we want to walk through with Sara some practical tools to make working from home more productive, more successful, and more efficient for you and your family. So Sara, what are some of the challenges that you've not only done research on when it comes to working remotely, but also maybe you've experienced in your own personal life?
Well, I think the main thing is really, it's suddenly you who has to give your day a structure, right? Because if you have to catch a certain bus in the morning or, get into the car at a certain time in the morning, that kind of automatically gives the day structure, when to get up and then you're in the office and people kind of take care of your schedule, so to speak. But if you work from home, I think it's really important different people, work with different systems, but having some kind of time management system in place, that's really, really helpful. Just find something that you like. We have a couple of time management books in our library, so you can really peruse and see what fits you best. I think it's really important to, this is what people always emphasize, is that you have your dedicated workspace at home. And then you clock in, at the same time every day. I kind of work during regular working hours. So I just clock in, you sit down and hunker down. But then it's also really important to end and not to set clear boundaries between work and leisure time. It's interesting in China when the lockdown happened there, the number one complaint among workers was that they suddenly felt pressure to be responsive on a 24/7 basis. And of course, that is a recipe. That is a big recipe for burnout, right? This is not something that you can sustain. And so I think it's really important to set these boundaries. When you're off, you're off. Don't check your email during your free time. Interesting enough, I found we have one article summarized in getAbstract where a team leader says he actually publishes his schedule, opens it up to his whole team so that the team sees when he works and when he doesn't, because they don't want them to think that he's always on and then they have to do the same too, right? So he shows them, look, I may have worked yesterday at 9 p.m., but I took the afternoon off to spend some time with my kids, So that's one way, team leaders can set realistic expectations. I think the other biggie is eliminating distractions. I'm a person, I feel I'm less distracted at home than I am in an office environment, but other people find that they are more distracted, they feel that they can run errands at home and so forth. So I think eliminating external distractions can be sometimes almost easier. Like I try to turn off most notifications. I don't need to hear a ring when a new email comes in, for example. I try to turn off external. But what I found actually, internal distractions are as distractive, right, than as external ones. So what I found really useful was, especially in this crazy news environment we're in right now, is I'm actually using a website blocker extension on my browser. And the nice thing about this is I can set the time. I can say during work hours, block my access to social media and to my favorite news websites. And the interesting thing about that is I find is that when you do that, within days, you don't even feel the urge anymore to check these sites because you know you can't access them. So it helps you concentrate a lot, I think. And it's kind of strange for me on the weekend when I'm on my computer and it's 3:00 in the afternoon or something. Oh, I can check Facebook now. So it's really kind of, it's almost a surprise for me. I think that really, really helps to cut down on some of those disruptions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one of the big things, I mean, what becomes so very clear is that you have to become your own boss. You have to set restrictions. You have to set the limits. You have to set the boundaries. And you can't just, I know I have it, you know, that I've gotten into is that I think, oh, well, I'll just naturally do this, or I'll just naturally clock off when I should, or I'll just naturally not check the news in the middle of the day. But you don't, right? We get into habits. And if we want to change them, we have to put our own boundaries in place. Let's talk about procrastination because it's one of the abstracts that we put in the reading list for today's session. This great book, The Now Habit by Neil Fiore. And what I love about this book is the subtitle is A Strategic Program for Overcoming Procrastination and Enjoying Guilt-Free Play. And there he's contrasting the idea of like, hey, if you can overcome your procrastination, then you get to play, right? You get to do more of what you actually want to do. So there's a real incentive there to get rid of your procrastination habit because it helps you do more of what you actually want to do. It's not just about being a more successful worker. It's about actually getting to do what you want to do with your own time, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually noticed this book is actually really old. And I read that book in grad school. I read that book in grad school, and then I found that it's actually one of getAbstract's top downloaded summaries of all time. I think it's a great method. And what really resonated with me when I read it, when I picked it up at the time was, you know, I think he was a psychology student, a PhD student, and he found, you know, there's always these PhD students there's those who can finish the dissertation within a year. And then there's others who just go on, and they take 5 to 10 to 13 years to finish the dissertation. We all know them, right? And he wanted to find out what the difference was between these two groups. And what really surprised him was that those who finished a PhD dissertation within a year, they were the ones who had a life. Those are the ones who did sports on a regular basis, who met with their friends on a regular basis, who took at least 1 day a week off to recharge, right? I mean, they probably took Sunday or Saturday off, where they just did not do work on the dissertation. And those who took more than 5 years, they would just see themselves as always working. And then they would not be productive. And then they would start canceling all the social obligations. They would stop going to the gym because they said, oh, I have to work on my dissertation. And so he invented that system that he called the unschedule. And the idea there is that you put everything on your schedule that either you have to do, right? Sleep, eat, and so forth. And then you also put things that nourish you. Like, I don't know, I mean, for me, it's sports, right? For other people, it may be playing an instrument or socializing a lot and so forth. So whatever is important to you in that regard, that kind of recharges your battery, you put that on the schedule before you put work on the schedule. And then you actually see how little time is left after that, right? You have a couple of white spots on your schedules left. And you put down your goals, your work goals, what is really important for you to accomplish. And that really provides an incentive to not procrastinate and to use these few hours during the day to really hunker down and focus on your goals. So it's kind of a pull type of motivation to work and not a push, right? Because as you see with these PhD students, when you push yourself and I have to, then that creates kind of a way, because I have to, I'm going to procrastinate now. But if you say, okay, I have 2 hours to accomplish this, which is really important to me, and then I have to go out and play, or I cannot cancel on my friends tonight, then it just, then you just get the work done. And plus the fact that you do take time for leisure activities, that gives you again energy for the next day to do quality work, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing that I love that he mentions, and it's right there in the takeaways in the abstract, is that he says people who struggle with procrastination are those who equate their sense of worth with their work. Because if they are afraid of doing something because they'll be criticized or they won't do it as perfectly as they want, as a recovering perfectionist myself, perfectionists can often be procrastinators because we want to do something perfectly, and if we can't, we don't do it. But that fear of criticism or that fear of not doing something. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I'm sure many of you who are watching know that feeling as well. But
yeah, I think one recommendation of his that I'm trying to work on once in a while is, he said, do sloppy work first. You know, I'm a writer, right? For getAbstract, write a C paper first, and you don't have to show it to anyone, but just get it out there, right? And then you can spend time refining it. But if you start your paper saying, oh, this has to be perfect, then you're just much slower, and you're creating these blocks and you're creating these expectations that really prevent you from just doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a question from Facebook, and it's obviously really pertinent to the context. And it's from Michael, and he says, most guidebooks suggest as a first measure for setting up a home office to ensure that children are looked after during working hours. But this is often not possible under lockdown, as many of us are right now. And many people are now familiar with the effects. Should I talk to my employer about this, or where can I find helpful tips?
It depends a little bit on, the labor law, I guess, in which country that is. I think that is not a settled question, as far as I know. But there's a lot of employers who do understand the situation, right? I think it's just not realistic to think that a 4-year-old kid will just be quiet in his or her room the whole day. I think it's hugely challenging. It's hugely challenging, right? It's a huge challenge. And I don't have a good answer for that.
I think actually we might be able to post, someone recommended from the team here at getAbstract, a great article in our journal, which is our free daily newspaper that's going out. You can sign up for that on getAbstract.com if you want to receive it. But in the journal, there's a great article, Locked Up, How Do I Prepare My Family and Myself for Coronavirus Quarantine? So if you want some family-specific working from home tips, we've got a lot of great articles from experts on the journal.
Yeah, I've actually summarized that one on the lockdown. It's they really just talk about getting your kids on a schedule. I think that helps a lot. Letting them take ownership of a schedule. This is what I have, an 8-year-old daughter. This is what I did with her. We created a daily schedule, and of course she's a bit older and a bit more independent now, and she can read by herself, so that makes it much easier. I think it would be much more challenging. It would have been much more challenging 3 years ago for me. But we did also create a schedule, and also made sure that she schedules a lot of fun activities. And sometimes what we do 45-minute working sprints. She would pick an activity, and I would go and work for 45 minutes. And we set the timer. And when the timer goes off after 45 minutes, we regroup, we have a snack or something, and then we do the next 45 minutes. And then to do a lot of exercise,
really
right?
Smart.
To just get out and just get some exercise and stuff.
Absolutely. You know, I
But
think
I
one
think
thing that's so
timers
helpful to know,
are,
you
are
know,
a good way to do it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is a great idea, actually, to use my timer on my phone more efficiently. But, you know, one thing that we did a webinar, and you can watch that on our Vimeo page as well, on Tuesday with Selena Rezvani. And she is also a mother of twin 7-year-olds and is working from home and having the kids home. And one thing that she said that I just want to offer to anyone who's listening, especially if you are a parent, and that's that just to give yourself grace. Like so many people, parents around the world are in such a similar situation, and don't put the extra pressure on yourself now to be the perfect parent and have it all together and have everyone on a perfect machine-like schedule. You know, we try and we take these tools and we try to give ourselves a schedule and our children a schedule and stuff, but you're not perfect. It's not all going to run smoothly. And most employers, bosses, we all know this because we're all in this together. So give yourself some grace and take it day by day. Sara, how do you combat this sense of isolation? I know you said that you are an introvert yourself, but a lot of people who are being forced to work from home now may be extroverts. How do they combat that desire for real connection in the office?
Yeah, I think you cannot completely replace that. I think there's really no substitute for human connection like that. I mean, during normal circumstances, you know, you should really try to find a social circle outside of work. For me, it's always been running groups. That's just my hobby. But other than that, what really helps is maybe to have some kind of social chat open. At a previous job, we always had a little Skype chat open where when we logged on to work, we just went in and said hi into the chat. And and everybody waved back. And that was kind of like a sign of, oh, I'm now in the office. And you really feel as if you were in the office, even if you're just, in your living room, I guess. Also, a lot of my coworkers say, they do just a lot of video calls with each other just to catch up, say hi. Ideally, somebody maybe you've already met in person before. I mean, we are fortunate at getAbstract that we do a yearly get-together where you actually where actually the company gets its entire staff in one place once a year. So, of course, this is priceless, right? Because you really get to know people in person, and this makes it easier then to stay in touch and pick up the phone. I think it's really important to really use video calls and to call people instead of just trying to email, because I think the danger for miscommunication is really high.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, pick up the phone and call. To my fellow millennials out there. All of us use our phones as a phone.
That's right.
Imagine that. I'm going to ask Sara my last question, and just want to throw that out there so that if any of you have a simmering thought or something that you want to share about perhaps your own working from home tips that you'd like to share with all of us, now is your chance to do that, or throw in your question or comment. Sara, there are tons of great technological digital tools out there now enabling teams to work together from all over the globe. These have been in place and becoming more of the norm, but now they're required. What are some of the best ones that you've been using and working with? And can you give us any tips and so far as using that space to your advantage and most effectively?
Right. I guess as an employee, you often don't have a choice. This is the company picks those tools for you. But what I think is really important is to define what they're for. I'm still a fan of good old email, because I think that email, despite all the more sophisticated tools we have these days, still has its place, because it leaves a written record, and I find it easier to keep track of them, especially if you get a request that will take you more than 5 minutes to complete. You can file it properly. And also, I think what is really important about email is that you can get to it when you decide to get to it. It doesn't throw you off. If you want to do, I'm a big fan of this concept of deep work. We have Cal Newport's book actually summarized like getAbstract. That it's okay sometimes to shut yourself down and to just focus on one thing for half an hour, an hour. And then you can go back and check your email. and it's just waiting there for you, right? And yeah, you can respond in your own time. These chats, I think, are more for social purposes. I mean, we're on Teams at getAbstract, and they can be useful, but they can also be overwhelming. So also here, sometimes I try to say, just call me in an emergency, but also there, I want to have a little bit of control as to when I check it and when not. And then I would really take advantage of the call features to just call people, and maybe so as not to interrupt your colleagues, I would just maybe schedule calls with people, and use video calls too.
Yeah, we love video calls. I love video calls. It helps. It's incredible how much that helps to connect you over distances. Even a phone call is wonderful, but being able to see someone's face in real time is really a lovely experience. So just one last question from Facebook, from Gundala, asks, some people are saying that once this is over, whenever that will be, we will have gotten so used to this new way of working that we can do away with most offices altogether. Do you think this is a realistic outlook?
That is super interesting. I like that idea. I mean, it really, I mean, we haven't talked about the environmental benefits, but companies can actually really reduce the environmental footprint by letting their workers work from home. I mean, big companies like Dell, for example, they really made their numbers public. When Dell started to let their employees work from home, they really published, their CO2 reduction data from one year to the other. It's pretty impressive. So I think from an environmental point of view, it's huge. And also, it reduces traffic congestion, reduces traffic accidents. So I think it comes with a lot of social benefits. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this is over. I think a lot of people will find that at least working part-time from home is a new option, or becomes the new normal. I think that would be a good thing. The only thing is, I recently read that some companies have used calling back their staff to the offices as a way to lay off people. And of course, if these economic growth, if the economy continues to spiral downward, a lot of companies will have to lay off staff. And for some companies, this has been a way of, surreptitiously getting rid of people, because some employees may no longer be able to afford living close to the office because, real estate is more expensive and so forth. So they quit, or they don't want to move their families. So we'll see what happens, I guess. But I am sure that more people, after this experience, that more people will stay at home, and companies will start to become convinced that this is actually not a bad thing to let people work from home, at least once in a while.
Yeah, well, wonderful way to end. Sara, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise on this, not only from your research and your great writing, but also from your own personal experience. It was a joy to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten.
Yeah, and if you guys want to read more of those abstracts that we talked about today, about the Now Habit by Neil Fiore, or that Gallup research, of course, those links are in the comments section. But we are very glad that you joined us from wherever you're working remotely today, and want to invite you back here on Monday. We'll be having another Get Together live on our Facebook page, as well as on our YouTube channel and on Vimeo. We're going to be talking with Michael Stallard about why relational connection is so important during this lockdown period that we're all in, and how to make those really real social connections. So he is just brilliant, and we're going to have a fabulous conversation. So look out for more details on that, and stay connected to us on getAbstract.com across all our social channels, and sign up for that journal newsletter. It's free. It's a daily newsletter. It puts all of our wisdom and relevant resources on this topic into context for you, and of course gives you our schedule for that week of get-togethers. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, happy Friday. I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy wherever you are, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Extraordinary challenges require extraordinary responses from thought leaders, company executives, and employees. As the coronavirus pandemic unfolds and businesses scramble to adapt to escalating containment efforts, getAbstract is here to help organizations navigate this crisis wisely and professionally. For over 20 years, we've been committed to providing relevant knowledge from reliable sources to help people make better decisions in their personal and professional lives. In line with our mission to empower decision makers with relevant knowledge from trusted sources, we are proud to offer businesses free access to our full library until May 18. Embark on a no-strings-attached knowledge journey with getAbstract. Sign up today.